Today, we're reviewing the second microphone that FIFINE Technology has sent me. This time we have the K688 dynamic microphone with a cardioid polar pattern. So you're listening to the sound that's coming out of it right now. Now, keep in mind when you're watching this video that this is touted as primarily as a podcast mic. So the way that I'm going to be reviewing it is as a podcast mic. In other words, it's primarily suited for recording voice, spoken voice primarily. Now, that doesn't mean that we might not be able to use it for other uses, specifically singing. And we're going to test it at the end of this video. Now, there are some kind of neat features with this microphone, which we'll get into in a minute. But first, let's just talk a little bit about the construction. So just like the other mic that they had sent me previously, very, very solid construction and design. This one is lighter weight, which I really like because it puts less tension on the boom arm. Boom stand is not included, by the way, but they did include the shock mount as well as an adapter, so to easily go into the boom arm. I had no issues with that whatsoever. A couple of neat little features about this microphone is it has a touch on-off like mute button on the side of it. On the back panel, there is a gain knob and then also an independent headphone knob. Maybe the coolest thing is that it has both XLR connection and USB connection. Now this is pretty cool. USB mics are, for me, sometimes problematic because I run everything through my interface, which has the XLR connections. Of course, there's ways that you can set up aggregate devices through your Mac or Windows computer. I've never found aggregate devices to be very reliable when you set them up through the software. No fault of the microphone. Just in general, USB mics, I sometimes have issues. Now, keep in mind, this is important to note that if you do connect it with the XLR connection, like I have it running through my interface, the headphone monitoring, the input gain knob, and the mute button will not function. Those are only functioning in the USB mode, which makes total sense. That being said, just a kind of neat feature that you could use it either way, which is kind of handy. The capsule's on the end, so you have to be positioned right in front of it. Now, it is a dynamic microphone as opposed to a condenser microphone, so you are going to have to get a little bit closer. I believe in the instructions, they suggest roughly 2 to 6 inches, which I think is pretty good. 6 inches, you're probably going to find a little bit tough as I move away from the microphone with a dynamic mic. So whatever this distance is here is about right. If you're going to use a condenser mic, you're going to be probably somewhere back here. You're going to need a little bit more space. Now, why would you use a dynamic microphone over a condenser microphone? I think the primary reason is that if you have a lot of other sound going on, for instance, the clicking of my keyboards. So if I just turn off my piano sound, this clicking kind of a sound. When you use a condenser microphone, it picks up all of that sound. It's going to drive you kind of nuts. So I think that's probably the biggest advantage with a dynamic microphone is that it's pretty much only picking up the sound directly in front of the capsule. Whereas condenser microphones, you can hear your neighbor's cat down the street. That's how sensitive they are. It's only picking up the sound in front of the microphone as opposed to everywhere else. So I think it sounds fine. So why don't we put it through a true test? And I'm going to add my effects through Ableton, through my voice that I typically would. I'm going to dial it in exactly the same as I would with my condenser microphone that I use when I'm live streaming. So I'm going to apply the same amount of reverb, the same amount of delay, and you can listen to it and you can tell me what you think. In terms of a speaking voice, I think it's coming through very, very clear. I don't have any issues. I did have to turn up the gain on my, which is very typical, by the way, for a dynamic microphone. You're really going to have to push the gain knob on your interface just because it doesn't pick up as much sound as a condenser microphone. So I had to push the gain knob quite a bit, but it's really no issue. So I'm just going to sing part of one of my songs called Haunted by You, and with some effects, and we'll see how it sounds. And then we'll have some final thoughts. When I close my eyes, I feel your grace, and I shouldn't smile. I only see your face everywhere waking out. You're in my dreams. Still wanna be haunted by. Still wanna be haunted by you. I wanted to use it in such a way that I would kind of recreate how I would use it, which would be in a live stream setting. So you be the judge. Use your ears, listen to it. This is probably going to be something that's trying to be competitive with a Shure SM7 USB mic, which I think is at least 3 times the price. So this is listed as a Canadian retail price of, I think, $110. $110 for a great podcasting microphone, dynamic capsule, I think is fantastic. The question you need to ask yourself is, do I want a dynamic microphone? Do I have some noise that I'm trying to not worry about? Or do I want a condenser microphone to get all the nuances of the voice, but also pick up all the other sounds? Aside from that, I've literally, this is my first time using it, so I can't really compare it to a Shure SM7 mic. I can just compare it to my NT1A condenser mic, which I use for live streaming. And it seems to be working very, very well. So you be the judge. There's great care that's going into the packaging of their stuff. And I know it seems like a small thing, but it is the first thing that you see when you're opening the package. It's beautiful packaging. It's like Apple packaging. That matters. That makes a difference. You're making an impression. If it's just kind of thrown in there in the box, your first impression is not going to be great. So it seems like the details that they put in with their construction and design of their microphones and the packaging even is quite good. If I had one small complaint, and this is super nitpicky, but on the back of the volume knob and the gain knob. It's really hard to see where the little line is, so you can see how far you've turned it. It's a black knob, and then it's like kind of like a black mark. Now, if you're like me and you're streaming, generally you're turning off overhead lights, so lighting is a little bit dimmer. It's actually really hard to see the little line, and I'm being super nitpicky. Aside from that, I really couldn't find any issues with it. Full disclosure, FIFINE sent me this microphone. I did not purchase it myself. That's it, my friends. You be the judge, but I think for $110 for a dynamic microphone, which is primarily geared towards podcasting and capturing the voice, you can listen back to the recording of my voice in this video when I was singing the song, and you can decide, does that sound good? I thought it sounded pretty good. So my initial impressions are good. I do like the fact that being a dynamic microphone that's not picking up a bunch of the other room noises, the creaking of the chair and the clicking of the keys. K688 by FIFINE Technology. Dynamic microphone, capsule in the front, both USB and XLR compatible. And there you have it, my friends. Stay safe. Catch you in the next one.